Episode 206. The Robinsons take over the casino. Keith was sure he wanted to bet against a particular group of people in a fancy private suite. He walked in and saw several guys drinking and smoking. Seeing Keith Robinson there, they looked back. The gangster guy among them was the most arrogant one. He was wearing a gold chain thick as a finger and a heavy fur coat, sucking on a cigar thick as a thumb. His name was James Dillinger, and he was famous for being cruel. He belonged to an elite family, and even the authorities knew better than to engage with him. He looked at Keith and said, "Boy, you really have some nerve to come here alone." Without a word, Keith poured the chips on the table and threw the box out. He looked gloomy as he said, "Cut the crap, James. Where is this thing?" "Hey, what's the hurry? I said that the thing is worth 50 million. But I don't care for money. As long as you can beat me in gambling, you could have it back. But why did you get these chips?" He had a look and then said, "How many million is this? It must be far less than 50 million. Keith's face darkened as he struck the table. "It's worth at most 20 million. Are you kidding me?" "I get to decide how much it is worth." James blew out some smoke and spread his hands. "You could choose to leave. Take your chips and get lost." "Ha!" Keith scoffed. "What do you want to play?" 5-card stud." "What if I win and you don't admit it?" Keith said gloomily. "Listen, boy, I'm quite famous in this business. I assure you I will not go back on my word. A Dillinger's word is etched in stone. Otherwise, who would trust me again? Right?" James looked around at everyone, who nodded with him. It should be fine theoretically, but James Dillinger was too wicked for Keith to trust completely. Fortunately, he had help. "I met old Mrs. Dillinger recently." Hearing the steady voice, everyone looked to the door. A tall man slowly walked in and said quietly, "She was very well and continued to say how nice and sweet her son was. Do you think your mother would believe me if I told her what you have said?" "Jake Robinson?" Clearly, James recognized him. Although this guy was not in his circle, James was so often on the news that everyone would show him some respect. James Dillinger's mother, Mrs. Lily Dillinger, was one of the most famous old artists in the country, but because of her bad health, she rarely saw any visitors. She had married into the Dillinger family at the peak of her stardom, and now ran her own jewelry business. A while back, Jake had helped her out with a vintage design, for which she needed a piece of jade. He had made sure that Mrs. Dillinger received the jade shipment on time, with his connections in the Far East. This demonstrated how important Jake had become. Knowing his equation with his mother, James too looked at Jake differently. He had not expected to see Jake there today. Jake nodded. "It is me. I'm wondering what kind of trouble Mr. Dillinger has with my brother. Could we fix it together?" "This is your brother?" James sneered. "That's why he's so reckless and rich." Keith's expression changed as he warned, "Watch your tongue." "What? Don't you dare to admit to it? It didn't look like that when a few days ago you took your girl to bully mine. Back then you were much more daring than you are right now. Trying to buy me off with a few million. How rich. Now what happened? Seeing your brother, you don't even dare to be half as cocky as you were then," James said. Listening to this, Jake's face darkened. Looking at Keith sharply, he asked, "What happened?" "I will explain to you later. It's not my fault. This guy robbed me of the emerald pendant Grandpa had given me, and now won't give it back." Keith tried to give him some context. Jake's eyes became darker.
The one Grandma left, when she passed away.
Looking away, Keith said,
Had I known this guy would be so calculative, I would have never even traded it in. He cheated last time, and that's how he won.
James smiled wickedly listening to that.
I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I play fair and square.
Jake wanted to choke him to death. He had eyed that emerald pendant for a long time. He wanted to give that to Serena once their baby was born. And Grandpa would not give it to him. Grandpa had given it to Keith for safekeeping, and he had gambled it away. This made Jake very upset. Seeing Jake's depressed look, Keith felt even guiltier.
I will count to 3. If you don't want to gamble, just leave. I don't have time to watch you guys get into a family fight.
Jake waved his hand.
1, 2, 3. I will play with you.
Jake pulled a chair and sat down.
What do you want to play?
Great. James laughed and sat opposite him.
5-card stud.
In the beginning, Serena would only bet with 500 each time. However, she had won every single time, which made her increase her bets. In the end, she was betting 100,000 each time. Many people gazed at the mountain of chips on her side. She had played the same game for more than 2 hours and never lost. She was good at this without even knowing. Feeling bored, Serena let out a sigh.
Can't I lose just once?
A guy stared at her and said kindly,
Young woman, your ass will be kicked if you brag like this.
She smiled, put away all her chips, and then went to play baccarat. When she first started playing baccarat, she was holding a small basket. But a dozen rounds later, she had switched the small basket for a large one, which got so heavy that she could no longer carry it. With a lot of people staring at her, Serena felt a bit spooked and went to play something else. A short guy approached her, staring at her chips.
Little girl, you're quite lucky. What do you want to play next?
I'm done. Looking for my husband now. Serena did not want to talk to him at all. She had a strong feeling that this guy was a con man. However, the short guy will not let go and tried to persuade her.
You want to try playing 5-card stud? It's a great game. Come over here.
I don't know how to play.
I will show you. Come here. Don't be scared.
I really don't know how to play. She stopped and looked impatient. Can you go find someone else? I'm not into that.
Pai Gow?
Don't know how to play.
Well, you must know how to throw a dice.
Serena glanced at him, puzzled. Then she took out her phone to call Jake. Seeing that, the guy bristled.
Just say no. Why do you have to make a phone call, pretentious woman?
Furious, Serena also cursed.
Why don't you get lost, idiot?
The guy growled.
Your class is clearly visible. Don't think this gambling luck will take you anywhere.
The call was connected. Serena exclaimed, You're the one who cursed first. Where's your class? Jake heard that through the phone and asked,
Are you okay?
Darling, someone is badgering me. The guy pouted and left.
Where are you? I will send Keith to pick you up.
Jake sounded gloomy. Serena told him her location and Keith came over quickly. Seeing Serena holding a basket full of chips, he did not know what to say.
You won all these on your own?